Welcome to Hey, It's Carly Rae's Book Club. This is Book Hour, where authors will talk their latest novels, reveal their writing process, and play some fun book games. I'm your host, Carly Rae. Today we have USA Today bestselling author Kate Stayman-London. We're going to be talking about her smash hit debut novel, One to Watch, where the idea of the Bachelorette storyline came from, if she has a favorite chapter in this novel, and if writing a novel differs from writing a screenplay. Plus, we're going to see how well this Taylor Swift fan knows her T-Swift trivia when we play Game Time. We'll jump in right after this. Hello, Kate. Tell us where you're joining us from.
Hi, I'm here in lovely Los Angeles, where we do not have a snowstorm today.
So does it feel like Christmas?
It never feels like Christmas, but I'm Jewish, so it's not that big a deal to me.
No, I'm so excited to have you on Book Hour. Your debut novel, One to Watch, pictured here, is all over social media with so many rave reviews. Tell those viewers who haven't read it yet what they can expect without giving away spoilers.
Sure. So One to Watch is the story of Bea Schumacher, who is a devastatingly stylish fashion blogger who feels like she has everything. She has great friends and family, an amazing job, but she also has a massively broken heart. And her life is changed forever, where one night, kind of reeling from the situation that gave her a heartbreak, she gets drunk and goes online and posts a takedown of her favorite reality show, which is called Main Squeeze, but which may remind you of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Her post goes viral. She gets a call from the show asking her to come and be its next lead and its first ever plus size lead. And she says yes, but under one condition, which is she absolutely refuses to fall in love. And so then we get to go on the journey, as they say, with her and see how that works out for her.
Yeah. Now, many reviewers have been eager to praise you for how you brought in the many different struggles women face on social media. Is that something you always wanted to have in the plot?
Yeah, definitely. So my background is I started out my career in the world of politics, and I do a lot of writing online for different politicians. And I was actually the lead digital writer for Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2015 and 2016. And as you can imagine, I had my fair encounters with trolls. And it's so interesting to me the way that, like, when men have loud opinions on social media, people will just like come for them about their opinions. But when women have loud opinions on social media, people come for you about the way that you look, about your body. And of course, even more so true for Black, Indigenous, and women of color, for trans women and non-binary people. So I was really interested in this idea that we have as a society that says we can have power over women by having ownership over their bodies, and to think about the way that that would play into someone like Bea being a fat woman, and a proudly fat woman, having the audacity to say, I deserve to have 25 men competing for me to find love, the way that the internet would react to that, and sort of how that might make her feel, how she would react. I thought that that was really important to include in the story.
Yeah, and it definitely, everybody loved that too. I think that's why it was such a standout.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Now, one question I think on everyone's mind is, are you a fan of The Bachelorette and Bachelor on television? Is that what kind of sparked the idea for this storyline?
Yes, I've been watching The Bachelor since the very first season when I was in college. And in fact, embarrassingly, after that first season had aired, wrote a letter to ABC saying, hello, I thought your show, The Bachelor, was very good, but I think it's sexist that you only have 25 women competing for a man. And I think you should invent a companion show called The Bachelorette. So I actually invented The Bachelorette, but no one has ever given me credit for that. So, but yeah, I've been a fan of the show from the start, but I get really frustrated with the show. And obviously we've seen a ton this year in terms of the push for diversity with the Batch Diversity campaign, which is there at Batch Diversity on Instagram. If you want to get involved with what they're doing, I think they're amazing. And we're seeing, finally more Black folks than just Rachel Lindsay being the lead, but it is a hugely problematic show. From the lack of racial diversity is one really obvious way. But if we look at ableism, if we look at a really narrow, pun very much intended, definition of what your body type should be and the way that you should project this one definition of masculinity, this one definition of femininity, and saying that love stories only look like this. When of course in real life, we all know that love stories look a million different ways, and it's not such a narrow definition. So I was interested both in spending time in a world that I really love, but also pushing that world to look more like the world that I live in and that we all live in, and sort of think about, well, what would that be like?
Yeah, like a normal person to be on the show.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, I love the cover of One to Watch because it's something different and very eye-catching. Were you involved in the design process?
To some extent, yeah. So I was a pain. They were very nice to me throughout. They came with like a version of the exact cover that you see with sort of the woman on the front and the cameras, but the color scheme was different and the fashion was different. And there were certain things about the way that she was portrayed that I was like, okay, it's really important to me that the color palette reflects sort of I mean, you can see me here in this bright dress. Like I wanted it to reflect my fashion sensibilities. I didn't want it to be, I wanted it to be feminine, but powerful, right? I didn't want it to feel like too girly or too bridesmaidy. I wanted it to feel like this is a book about a tough boss bitch, like a powerful woman coming into her power. But I also didn't want to say, okay, so let's do navy blue and red, right? Because I'm really interested in the idea of like power as a feminine quality, that we don't have to like appropriate masculine qualities in order to be powerful, that we can be like pretty and girly and love makeup and dresses and all those things, but still be like really powerful and really well respected in whatever it is that we choose to do. So that was something I really wanted the cover to reflect. And also my favorite little thing that I asked them to do was to have the cord wrapping around her ankle at the bottom, because I wanted there to be a joke on there. So they let me have my joke.
Now, what about the name of the book? Were you involved in naming the book?
Yeah. So the book originally was called Pretty Follies, which comes from one of the two quotes in the epigraph. It's a Shakespeare quote where he coined "Love is blind," and the quote is, but love is blind, and lovers cannot see the pretty follies that themselves commit." And so I loved this idea of pretty follies and how it played on kind of beautiful things that are also mistakes and like the show of it all. But it's sort of, as it was getting closer to be time to publish, we sort of felt like it was too esoteric and maybe didn't give you quite as much of an idea of what the book should be. And so I wrote down like 1 million words on like index cards and had them spread out all over my living room floor. Like, I don't know if you've seen Julie and Julia, but like that scene where they're like figuring out the title of Mastering the Art of French Cooking. It was a lot like that. And I got on the phone with my editor and my agent, and we just went through all the different things and phrases, and we were just saying words at each other. And my agent was the one who said the phrase "one to watch," and we were all like, oh. And then we were supposed to come in with like 10 options for a Random House to sort of look through and debate, but we were like, our favorite is "one to watch." And they were like, oh no, that's perfect, we're doing that. So like once we hit on that, that became a really obvious way forward.
Yeah. Now, out of all the chapters, do you have a favorite?
Man, this changes a lot. It changes. I have a soft spot in my heart. There's a chapter where she goes on a date in an empty museum, which is one of the first scenes I wrote when I was writing the proposal way back in 2017. And it's the only scene from that proposal that made it all the way into the finished book. So I really love that scene. And it's also a reference for two things that I really love. One is in the book, it's a reference to From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil Frankweiler by E.L. Koenigsberg, which was one of my favorite books as a kid. So I wanted to reference that. But also Bill and Hillary Clinton, their first date was in an empty art museum on the Yale campus when they were law students there. There was a student worker strike. So the museum was closed. And Bill convinced the security guard to let them have the museum to themselves if they would clean up all the litter in the front sort of gated area, whatever, after they looked through. And so Bill Clinton, obviously a pretty charming guy, the security guard let them in and let them have the museum to themselves. And it was a Rothko exhibit. And so that's in that scene in the book, as well as a reference to Rothko as a little just sort of hat tip to one of my heroes.
Oh, that's really cute. I didn't know that. And I know viewers watching, they're probably like, aw.
Just always trying to let everyone know how much I love Hillary Clinton. Forever my brand.
Yeah. Now, what is it you hope readers take away from One to Watch?
That beauty standards are stupid, and that there's a diet industry in this country that makes $70 billion every year, mostly from women, by telling us that we shouldn't like how we look, when in fact the research says that somewhere between 95 and 97% of diets fail, right? And that actually, if you want to make changes in your eating that's, tacking it to health metrics like your blood pressure, your cholesterol, whatever, that tends to be really successful. But when you're trying to lose weight, it doesn't work. And scientists know that, but we still have to live in this system where we're told you should feel bad about yourself. You should spend time and energy and money and power and all of this time that you could be doing other things, living your life, feeling joy, feeling happiness, right? That you should instead spend that time hating yourself. And it is such a way to hold, especially women, down and make us feel that we are not people of worth and people of value. And I think that there are so many more important ways to feel worthy and valuable, and so many ways to feel beautiful, right? I put on, my best friend got me this like shiny green eye makeup for my birthday, and I've never gotten to wear it before because it's 2020 and where am I going? But I was like, I'm gonna put on my shiny green eye makeup for this interview today. And it made me so happy, right? And we can love the way that we look and have creativity and like your beautiful pink sweater, right? We can have all this self-expression. And that it matters so much more how we feel about ourselves and the joy that we can put into the world than how any man feels about us, how some random societal metric defines us, right? We are the definers of our own worth. And I hope that people who read Want to Watch, and it's hard. I mean, I struggle with it. I know everybody struggles with it, but I hope that it gives everyone a little push to just say sort of like, screw anyone who tells me I'm not worthy, because you are.
Yeah. Well, you heard Kate talk all things One to Watch. Stay tuned, because when we return, we're going to find out if writing One to Watch was different than writing a screenplay. Welcome back to Book Hour. I'm your host, Carly Rae, here with USA Today bestselling author Kate Stayman-London. Now, Kate, among being a bestselling author, you're also a screenwriter and political strategist. As you said, you served as the lead digital writer for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, and you've even written for President Obama, Cher, and Anna Wintour. Tell us, is writing a novel different from your other notable writing?
Yeah. So I think every kind of writing kind of has its pluses and minuses and sort of just different things. And I love sort of having my fingers in different pies, because like a book, for example, it's a really solitary activity. And obviously I have my editor and agent and other trusted readers, but most of the time it's just me and my computer by myself figuring things out, writing these, big, long books are really big and long. And that's wonderful. And I can be introverted. And so I really like that. But then with screenwriting, you are collaborating with producers and directors and cast if you're getting to that point. And it can be such a rewarding experience to sort of, I have one screenwriting project where the director is a close friend of mine, and she and I will just sit and talk for hours about our lives and then be like, oh, I know how to fix that scene in Act 2. And it's like these wonderful things, but it's also, it's much less your baby than a book is, because you are collaborating with so many different people and you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So it's, that piece is a little bit different. But then also, like, I don't know, I wrote this video for soon to be President Biden in 2016, and it called for a big poster board that had his voting plan on it and all these different pictures. And our art department at the campaign actually made the voting board for the video, and to see it in real life, it was just like, this is so cool. And like, I can write whatever I want in a book, but like, no one's actually making the thing that I wrote, right? So working, that kind of collaboration is amazing. And then writing for politicians, that's really cool, because you can kind of see the impact of your work in a really different way, where it's like, I write a video for President Obama about the importance of early voting, and then we can see like 30 million people watch that video, and this many of them went and registered to vote early and whatever. And you can really see the impact of your work, but also like, you're not writing for yourself at that point, right? You're trying to stay true to that person's voice and show them in the best light. And you're very much, you are writing in service of another person as opposed to for your own creative expression. So it's all like, I love all of them. And I'm really lucky that I get to sort of bounce back and forth and balance the different kinds of writing I like.
Yeah. Now, what happened to the board? Do you still have that board?
They offered it to me. They said I could keep it, but it was gigantic. It was like 6 feet by 4 feet or something. And I was flying home, and it also, everything was held in place with pins that had no back on them. So it was just like all these sharp pins on the back. And I was like, I don't think there's any way I could even get this home on the subway, let alone fly it from Brooklyn back to Los Angeles. So sadly, I think that the board is lost to the sands of time. But if you go on YouTube and you look for Joe Biden make a plan to vote Hillary Clinton video, something like that, you'll find the video. And I think it's pretty cute. He did an admirable job delivering some fun jokes. So it was really a pleasure to work with him.
That's so awesome. Now, talking about One to Watch, did it take you long to craft that novel, or did you know the plot like from the very beginning, how you wanted it to be?
So yes to both of those questions. So I knew most of the plot from, when I was first writing the proposal and breaking it out episode by episode and knowing the different twists, but it did sort of the writing of it and sort of building out, like the first draft, I think, was 60,000 words and the final book ended up being something like 110,000 words. Really, it grew a lot, building out the characters and those relationships. And because she is on a show with 25 different men, sort of figuring out like, oh, what's this character actually like? Oh, is it interesting? Like there's one character who's really young. And in the first draft, he wasn't young. And we were like, oh, would it give him a different energy if he's sort of like the eager young guy who's maybe a little immature, and let's try it that way. Or there's a producer character who was really hard to get right. And we wanted to like really thread the needle with a kind of subtle portrayal of the kind of person she is. So things like character development, that did take a long time. And I probably spent almost 3 years, 2.5 years, soup to nuts on the writing of the book. And I think having that time really allowed the characters to grow and jump off the page a little more, which I'm really lucky that we got to sort of spend that time and make it what it became.
Now, walk us through your day when you're writing. Do you prefer to write in the morning, or do you work on it throughout the day?
Yeah, definitely prefer to write in the morning if I can. I like to sort of get up, get my coffee, sit right down and sort of try and get through my pages for the day. In the before times, it would be like, okay, if I can like sort of bang out what I want to do by 12 or 1, then it's like I can go to a yoga class or go meet someone for lunch or go to a movie or take a walk or whatever. And then if I have a little more time to sort of mess around with something or do some edits later in the day, then that's perfect. In pandemic, it's just like whatever I can do, whenever I can do it. If I can write in the morning, great. If I'm feeling like the world is a mess and I can't do anything in the morning, and then at 2 p.m. suddenly I can write for an hour, great. This year has taught me very much just to be like, let go of all expectations for myself and what I may or may not be able to do, be like so gentle and just be so grateful. Like if 9 p.m., if 10 a.m., if whatever hour I feel like I can get some work done and can sit and put some words down that don't feel terrible, then I'm like very grateful and very happy about it.
Now, what is your favorite part of the writing process?
That's a great question. There are like rare moments where something will just like come to me fully formed. And I'm like, I don't know where this came from or how it happened or like what muse put it in my head, but like, here it is. And then sometimes years later, even I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, I wrote this because it reminds me of that memory from, when I was 17 or whatever. But in the moment, I won't know. And it'll just feel like, a mystery from the heavens that sort of births out of me. I love when that happens because I don't understand it. And it feels like such a joyous, magical thing to me. But there's also like great joy. And like when you're working and you're working and you're working and you finally crack something, that's like really great too. But it just doesn't feel quite as magical because you know how you got there.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Stay tuned because when we return, it is game time.
Thank you for choosing Three Brothers Wineries. I'm Erica Policelli. I'm one of the partners here at the winery, and I want to tell you a little bit more about our estate. We were founded in 2006 by Dave and Luann Mansfield. We have 40 acres of grapevines, a fully operational farm. All of the wines you're tasting today are from our farm. We have 2 female winemakers, Kim Marconi and Paige Vinson. On our campus, we actually have 3 wineries and a microbrewery. We have an extensive portfolio of not only wine, but also beer, hard cider, wine spritzers, and wine slushy, all manufactured here on site. When we opened our doors in 2007, we had a modest staff of 10. We've grown to employ 40 full-time and 100 part-time employees. We pride ourselves on creativity, innovation, and our company culture. When you make a purchase from Three Brothers Wineries or Warhorse Brewing, you're supporting a majority women-owned small business, and we thank you for that.
Welcome back. It is game time. The first game we're going to play is Trivia Taylor Swift Edition.
Oh, I can't wait.
I saw that you're a huge Taylor Swift fan, so that is what we are focusing on today.
No, I'm not low-key wearing the ring from Cardigan right now.
If Taylor Swift's watching, she needs to see you're a huge fan.
Thank you forevermore. We all appreciate it.
Did you watch your music video? It went live at midnight the other night.
Oh, most definitely.
I was like, yes. All right. Now, the first Taylor Swift trivia question is, what is Taylor Swift's lucky number?
13.
Obviously. Ding, ding, ding. All right. The second one is, what kind of farm did Taylor Swift used to live on?
A Christmas tree farm.
Yes. Ding, ding,
about it.
Number 3, what TV show did Taylor Swift make her acting debut on?
Oh, great question.
I'll give you a hint. It was like a crime show. She was a guest star.
Was it a Law and Order?
No, it was similar to that.
Criminal Minds? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, CSI.
CSI! Oh, man. I can't. That's a good one. That's a deep cut.
All right, number 4. What album does T Swift describe as her first pop album?
1989.
Yes, ding, ding, ding. All right, and the last one. Taylor Swift has sold how many records?
Like, all together?
Yeah, sold more than how many millions of records?
Oh. 100? 50? 20?
Close. 40.
40. That's another number, which I also said numbers. So I think they were all in the same category. 40 million records. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I know. And it doesn't
even sell 40 million copies of One to Watch. I'll be pretty happy with that.
There we go. All right, next we are going to play Table Topics. I'm going to read you hypothetical questions and you are going to answer them.
Great.
All right, the first one is, if you could be a top-tier professional athlete in any sport, what sport would you play and why?
Figure skating, most definitely, because the dresses and just like the music and it's just like you're living for the drama when you're and like all the like, ooh, are they gonna land it? And I also when I worked for Secretary Clinton, I got to meet Michelle Kwan, who had been one of my heroes because she's like a very dedicated public servant, and she took us all ice skating one day, and it was just like the literal greatest to go ice skating with Michelle Kwan, and I grew up loving figure skating, so that's definitely what I would pick.
Did you get a video of that and a picture so you can memorialize?
I have a photo. I'm sure I can find it. I'll send it to you.
Okay. All right. The second one. If someone gave you a cottage somewhere in the countryside, where would you want the cottage located?
Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts is where we spent summers when I was a little kid, actually before the Clintons started going there, and then we couldn't afford it anymore. But I love it there. It's just like the most magical, wonderful place. But also actually just this fall, I visited Orcas Island on the opposite side of the country off the coast of Seattle for the first time. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I thought it was so wonderful. So ideally, East Coast Cottage on Martha's Vineyard, West Coast Cottage on Orcas Island.
All right, number 3. If you could pick any job to be replaced by robots, what job would you make obsolete?
Oh, wow. I don't know. white men in media. Is that an option? we can just have the robots do the algorithm for like Jill Biden calls herself a doctor, and then like whoever that actual white man is can go and like clean his house or volunteer at a food bank or do something useful. And then women and queer people and non-white people can all just like make our voices heard, and that would be great.
Number 4, if you were given one luxury item but couldn't sell it, what luxury item would you want?
Couldn't sell it. Oh man. Jewels, right? Like a really like a diamond necklace, like just something really, or like a tiara, just something like really over the top that I would never be able to get for myself.
How about the necklace from Titanic? That huge.
Oh yeah, just like a big one. Absolutely. And then just do the Celine chest thump in my own home every day in the comfort of my home.
And the last one, if someone created a cafe with your taste in mind, what would it look like?
Ooh, great question. I'm very into like sort of like dark goth 20s sort of maximalist, like dark velvet, lots of like little oil paintings on the walls, roaring fire, like chic cocktails, and like, but also like a really good burger. Like I would want it to be like very like, oh, Dorothy Parker came here and like read everyone to filth while drinking a really delicious martini. I would want that to be the vibe.
That concludes our game time. Kate, I want to thank you for being on Book Hour and joining us today. Before you go, tell viewers if you're writing more books or what projects you're working on next.
I'm not allowed to talk about literally anything that I'm working on right now, but you can come for my joyous, clever, terrible thoughts and ideas on Twitter at _KSL, or on Instagram I'm __ KSL, two underscores. And that's the only place I'm doing things publicly right now.
So if you want to stay up to date on everything Kate, go check her out now. All of her social media handles are in the description below. Kate, thank you so much for being on Book Hour. And for those watching, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you for having me.